On the board this week, we've got creatures described as the spindly bird lady that lives under your floorboards, a cannibal with a magic dance, and the infinite horse. If that's something you'd like resting in your noodle, then come pull up a stool at Creature Tavern. As the cold winds of this year's end start to swell, allow these stories three an effort to shield you from the impending hour of the cosmic cycle's midnight. We'll kick off today's tellings with the Kikimora from Slavic Folklore. Kikimora are named simply as a female house spirit. It was first found in the early 8th century, and tradition splits her nature and beginnings in several ways. Some lore says Kikimora are babies who died unbaptized. Others say they're children born with a vicious connection to a fiery serpent. And in more accounts, there are children cursed by their parents and then abducted or exchanged by evil spirits, turning them into Kikimora. There's also a belief that Kikimora are the souls of living people that leave their bodies at night. You'll see them drifting as wisps of straw or hair, or even a moth, throughout the home. Over time, scholars distinguished a clear divide in two variants of the creature. The forest Kikimora, said to be married to another household spirit named the Domovi, and the swamp Kikimora. This one's married to a different creature, one we've covered in visits past, known as Leshy. Her appearance is famously mutable, yet always feminine, able to shape her image into that of an old woman or a beautiful girl. In one persistent image, a Kikimora is said to strongly resemble a humanoid chicken, complete with the signature beaked mouth and nose, chicken scratch fingers, and hairless pointed feet. Other stories insist she can take on any part of an animal's face or body. She may have the snout of a dog, the compressed nasal instrument of a swine, or a more goat-like take on looks, complete with glowing eyes and little stubby horns, a finger's row above the sockets. In lore on the swamp version, a distinct picture of a female spirit emerges. Small, ugly, hunchbacked, thin and scruffy. They were all the words I found when folks told of their encounters. They gave her a pointed nose and dishevelled hair, clothed entirely in materials of moss and grass. Elsewhere, she's imagined as an ugly dwarf, or even a baby. The head was said to be like a thimble, and the body as thin as a straw. A grotesque reduction, but one that continued to preserve her human outline. Between the two variants, you'll surprisingly find them in two different locations. The first, some consider this the classic version, is, as the name household spirit suggests, found in the household. But a specific home. They would happily dwell in any home, but that's not how this legend lives. They select a home, and once they've slinked in, they're said to reside most frequently under floorboards, in attics, hidden away in small nooks and crannies around the home, or behind the stove or hearth. The other version, known as the swamp version, is again, as the name suggests, said to dwell in the swamps or marshes, but always near a body of water, such as a river or pond, where she'll lay there in wait, camouflaged by her dressings of moss. House Kikimora are capricious little spirits that attune themselves to the household they've taken rest in. This allows them to be good or bad, depending on the behaviour of the homeowner and state of the domicile. When welcomed, or at the very least not offended, the Kikimora settles into the hidden architecture of a dwelling with pleasant ease. But this isn't always the case. Some folks believe that home builders, with a bit of ill intent, would, and I quote, bring in a Kikimora. For some reason they wanted to haunt the people they were building the house for. And once she's inside, she's rather difficult to drive away. It's said they enter a home through keyholes, and you can tell if one snuck in by the wet footprint she leaves behind, and the mouse-like noises heard chittering behind boards when she's displeased. In some lore, a Kikimora's decision to settle depends entirely on one singular factor. If the corpse of a child, a hanged person, or an unsung deceased was buried beneath the premises, though some broaden this requirement to situations where a child has died in the home for any reason, buried under or not. And in keeping with this theme of death, it's said she can take the form of a deceased family member, though again, this is restricted to only the females. And if she fancies it, the Kikimora can assume a menagerie of alternative shapes. Dogs, pigs, ducks, hares, hamsters, frogs, toads, a goose, or a black cat are all listed as possible Kikimora. As well as shifting shape, Kikimora possess the ability to turn invisible, run faster than a mortal, and see further than the sight line of any bird of prey. So what does she do with these supernatural talents, I hear you ask? Well, she uses them for her own amusement, of course. She frightens folks, knocks travellers off the road, even drowns them in some stories, and of course kidnapping children. Inside the home, Kikimora's conduct swings between helpful and harrowing. When the house is in order, she's said to tend the livestock, especially the chickens. She'll also help with the housework. And at night, she may be found downstairs in the living room, spinning thread. But when the house falls into disarray, she lets out a piercing whistle. She'll break your dishes, and she'll make some rather unsettling noises all throughout the night, irritating or scaring off those who've allowed the home to fall. And it's not just your dishes this nocturnal oppressor likes to manhandle. I read stories that say she'll slip through the keyhole of your bedroom, creep in and sit on your chest, and then attempt to strangle you. Or if she's possessed with little hate, she might just place a spell of nightmares on you instead. She also enjoys playing pranks. Legend says she'll appear to folks in the form of an abandoned child, lost by the roadside. And if someone picks her up, she'll do all she can to wriggle free and run off laughing as they chase. But if you're thinking, I keep my home in good state, maybe a spirit to help with the chores wouldn't be so bad. Well, according to law, Kikimora often appear alongside life-changing bad news, or death, and may themselves be messengers of this misfortune. Some corners of law go further. These say to lay eyes upon a Kikimora is to bring about swift death. And the swamp variant widens her reach outdoors. She's been known to create wisps of light that dance on the surface of the water, using them as lures to draw in the curious for a spot of drowning. Or she'll work a little less in the shadows. Instead, she'll grow intoxicating plants to do her dirty work for her. A famed Russian bailichka, that's a type of Russian folklore story, tells of Baba Bolonitsa, a swamp Kikimora, who has a new and unusual talent. You see, this one loved to brew beer. And when she brewed, fog rose all over the river. Basically, even with the ones that help round the home, you probably don't want a Kikimora of your own. So here's what you can do to drive them away, prevent, or avoid this shape-shifting spirit altogether. If you suspect a Kikimora has already taken root in your home, an offering of food is believed to please her, and it'll please her so much that she'll agree to no longer disturb you. I even saw a few records that say this simple offering will cause them to leave in search of a new building. To prevent one from entering your bedroom, it advised you stuff all the keyholes with small pieces of cloth or paper to stifle her advances. To repel a Kikimora that's already slipped in, children are advised to look at their window or turn their pillow over and make the sign of the cross on it. In some legends, Kikimora have that thin, frail design, and because of this, they're afraid that they'll be blown away by the wind, hence why they remain in homes. So use that. Open all the windows and doors during the day. You might manage to drive the spirit out with fear. And in the early 19th century, Vuk Karadžić, a Serbian philologist, mentioned that people could repel these spirits in one of three ways. By leaving a broom upside down behind the door, putting their pant belt on top of their bed sheets, or recanting a specific protective incantation before bed. And lucky for you, I managed to track down the very spell. Here's the English translation for you. Bora bora, do not cross, over this white household. For on it hang the heavy keys of our Soido. Soido and Tudor, and Marie Amatja, and sister Levantija, who lets no one enter. Over this white household, let no stone witch turning all to stone, no wind witch blowing all away, no clinging, burden-bringing witch, no widowed window, no spell-working sorceress, pass until she has counted the stars in the sky, the leaves on the mountain, the sand in the sea, the hairs on a bitch, the coat on a goat, the wool on a sheep, the hairs inside the wool. When she has counted all that, let her grind herself with the door bar. Take the latch as her staff. Creep into an eggshell. Drown in the open sea. May tiny creatures drink her dry. May her head belong to the devil. May the devil take all her goats. May her milk never curdle, but instead she cry, alas, alas. Be dealt her by the Lena Plena, and Mary Magdalene. Amen. Welcome, welcome to my fantastic encapsulating bubble of begging and pleading. You know the space, the one where I turn away from the script. I say, put your script down, sir. I don't need that anymore. I'm a improv genius. It doesn't help that I forgot the word improv. Thanks for listening to episode 30 of Creature Tavern. That's right. This is like a full season now. We have 30 episodes. Good grief. Well done to anyone who's listened to all those. You're a trooper. As always, if you want to show some appreciation for the show, you can post about it using the hashtag Creature Tavern on X or Blue Sky or really anywhere, to be honest with you. It all helps. It's all fantastic. By doing so, we'll put you in the running for a chance for your name to appear on the show. You could end up the Kettle Knight of Tea Town, which is way darker than it sounds. Ooh, it's a scary place over there. Or perhaps you'll end up a tortured warlock. You went into the family business, but it turns out you actually really don't like dead things. And this was not a good choice, but like you're 40 now and this is all you know. And so you've come to the tavern for a drink and to maybe see if like they're hiring. Maybe we are. Who knows? But that could be you. However you're immortalized, just know that you'll be able to sleep well that night, knowing that you accomplished something many haven't. You see, your name, or at least the name you give me, has featured on an audio file that comes to the internet every week. And what would an accomplishment like that be without you letting everybody know and hear about it? So make sure to give this humble tavern a share on the socials. Or, if that's too vanilla for you, print out a flyer and post it through the letterbox of everybody in your neighbourhood and the schools and the car. Put them under the car. What's it called? The windscreen wipers. Put it under the car windscreen wipers. You know what they say about unsolicited post? You can never have too much. Now, before the Postmaster General comes knocking at my door with a fine, I'm going to get myself away. But first, let's get you back to the tavern. On to tale number 2. And for this one, we're going to be fighting off further cold as we venture north into lore on the Chenoo from Algonquin Folklore. Chenoo, or for the plural Chenook, are considered by some to be evil spirits. Others remember them as mortals turned ice giants. And to some, they live as demented emblems of the colder months of man. Starting life as a common human, it's thought Chenook are people corrupted by dark magic, and now cursed to feast on the flesh of their fellow man. The transformation from mortal to beast leaves the body far larger than an average adult, and growing ever larger the hungrier they get. The person's teeth grow into sharp fangs that sit open on the surface of the face, completely exposed to the elements, as the former human's lips have been chewed away. Records say this is coupled with wolfish eyes and the frame of a haggard old man. A figure described by American folklorist Charles Godfrey Leland as, and I quote, "something made of devil, man, and beast in their most dreadful forms." Further accounts emphasize the raw, wasted body, calling it stark naked. And much like the lips, the shoulders too have been gnawed away, likely as a result of feeding on its own flesh and starvation. When a human becomes a Chenoo, as well as the monstrous silhouette and hunger, their bodies grow incredibly hot. So hot, they're unable to stand warmth of any sort, which is why they're most often sighted in the frozen north, places like the northern forests of Wabanaki homelands, which span what is now northern New England and the Canadian Maritimes. Our friend Charles Godfrey Leland wrote in his book, The Algonquin Legends of New England, that Chenoo are said to dwell in the cold regions of far northern Canada. But whether you're in the region of New England or the region of Canada, head to whatever thick expanse of woods you can find, and you're bound to have a run-in with a Chenoo in no time. Though I'm not sure that's something you'll want once you hear of their habits. The defining curse of a Chenoo is the hunger. Endless, torturous, and only ever for human flesh. In good news for gender equality, both male and female can be plagued by this need to feed, with the female said to be stronger and more dangerous of the breed. As I'm sure you get by now, it's generally cannibalistic, but not driven by any form of madness. In fact, despite the ferocity, Chinook remain able to communicate like the humans they used to be, and they also maintain a similar measure of intelligence, which it turns towards its pursuit in silencing that unending famine. Accounts describe superhuman strength, with tales of Chinook felling pines as if they were saplings, and in great numbers, presenting their second supernatural feat, super endurance. And what cannibal giant would be complete without a speed far greater than any man? I also found tellings that say Chinook practice calculated stealth. These documented Chenoo rubbing its body with pine resin and rolling in leaf litter and fallen branches in the woods, crafting a natural camouflage. It's rather convincing, and giving its heightened dark disguise, it may easily be mistaken for a tree at a glance. Beyond brute force and cunning, some tales show it wielding a ritual power of summoning. In one story of a Chenoo, it visits a spring, strips himself of all clothing, and begins to dance round the spring. This appears to cause the water to begin to foam, swell and fall, as if some monster below were heaving in accord with the steps and song. The story goes on to say the Chenoo danced faster and wilder, and as it did, the head of an immense taktolok, or lizard, rose to the surface. It's also common for Chinook to contend with their own kind, and just as violently as they do with any human. It doesn't seem they go out in search of their own kin, but from the stories I've read, they're able to sense one another. Not sure how exactly. Could be smell on the wind, or some other supernatural sense. And it's not omnipotent. The ability only kicks in when another Chenoo is within an undisclosed radius. And when they fight, it's not the super strength punches or the inhumanly fast body charges that you need to worry about. It's a sound, described as like nothing on earth, and lovingly referred to as war whoops. So Chinook are giant, freezing cannibals that run really, really fast. So these next few tips on how to handle one are kind of worth their weight in gold. And you're welcome to all of them. Bullets, bolts and blades don't work on this one. Well, they do. But something I failed to mention earlier is that they appear to heal pretty quickly. So you've got to be even quicker. To ensure a Chenoo is truly dead, it's best to chop their bodies into multiple pieces. And some stories go on to say the bones must be consumed by fire as well. Others say the only true way to vanquish a Chenoo is by destroying their icy heart. Either by tricking them into eating salt, forcing them to eat so much that they throw it up, or carving it out and melting it. Mind, it's not as easy as you may think to carve one out. In some tellings, it's said that the heart, it was of ice, and more than ice, as much colder as ice is colder than fire, and as much harder as ice is harder than water. Yes, we're talking about a literal heart of ice here. When placed in the fire, it's been known to put out the flames. Yet by long burning it, you can melt it away slowly, until it's at least able to be broken into fragments, with a hatchet perhaps. And then you can go on to melt the pieces individually. As a side note here, this heart is also said to be the shape of a miniature human. And this one's not so much a tip as a bit of advice, but legends say you'll have to kill it more than once to complete the task. If you're out with a mate and you notice they're changing into a Chenoo, you can prevent the curse from taking over in full by killing them immediately. One legend I found accomplishes just this by firing 7 arrows into the changing woman's heart. In another story titled The Girl and a Chenoo, after having a sweat lodge built for it, the Chenoo enters, torturing itself by sitting inside for a time. And it turns out this was a good thing, as it resulted in it coughing up the icy lump and returning to its human form. And if you're feeling brave, I found a couple stories that say if you fight the instinct to scream and run, instead embracing the Chenoo as a long-lost relative, such as a father, mother, or grand-relative, and inviting them along with you into your camp and conversing them with kindness, it'll result in the Chenoo being stunned. And not only that, they'll slowly assume the role, even going as far as to help with chores and defending this new surrogate family from the dangers of beast, man, and monster alike. Oh, look who it is! The person who has been listening to the episode for a good 20 minutes? I haven't got a watch on. But thank you, I appreciate it. I truly seriously do. The analytics the few analytics I can get a hold of show that there's a very big cutoff point at the start, so you are in the minority of my favourite people on this planet. To ensure that you remain on that golden pedestal, why not tap the subscribe button wherever you are? You could be in the bathroom, on a bus, in the garage, or maybe you're in none of those places, a mysterious 5th location. Wherever it is, go ahead, give it a click. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere notch, pitch, what's an animal that begins with N? Oh no. Animals that begin with N. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, are there any animals that begin with N? There must be. Oh no. Oh, this is embarrassing. I bet you're screaming. I bet you're screaming 1 or 2. Newts? Narwhals! Oh my god. Notch pitch narwhals make their... Where the hell does a narwhal sleep? Oh, this has been a nightmare. Pools? Yeah, it's pools. Just search for Creature Tavern. While you're in that space, go ahead and leave us a review. You know what I just said about the narwhals and the newts. Ignore all that. Ignore all that. This isn't the thing to review. The thing to review is the good content, the scripted content that has time and effort and thought put into it. None of this. But if you wouldn't mind, go ahead, pop over and write something nice or write something about narwhals, the creature that'll haunt me for the rest of my days. Now, before I start having palpitations at the idea of this horned mammal, I'm gonna go run and hide. But before that, real quick, let's get you back to the tavern. As the lantern light grows dim, allow me to spin one last tale for you today. And I hope you're a fan of ghosts with long bodies, as we inspect scripture on the Lou Drapé from French folklore. Lou Drapé, or Drape for short, is spoken of as a demonic creature or symbol of death, that first entered the world of written law in 1818. In the Dictionary Infernal by French occultist Jacques Albin Simon, Colin de Plancy. This demonic death idol is described as a white horse of unsettling grandeur. Ghastly and big, yet also a radiant beauty. Standing at around the 7-foot mark, it's a towering steed, with a coat the exact colour of moonlight. So far, this cryptid sounding like quite the ordinary horse, if a little ethereal. But here's where the supernatural sets foot on this equine effigy. It's very mild, but legends say the Lou Drapé is not fully there. Its edges soften, the ribs, withers, and every other part of this silver steed show faintly through a milky translucence. It's not a ghost, but it's ruddy close at a glance. This somewhat spectral steed is specifically tied to the medieval town of Aegis Motte in the guard department within the marshy Petit Comminges region of southern France. Apologies to any French listeners, I am well aware I've butchered all of that. Here it's said to wander at night around the town's ramparts, sometimes described as circling the walls and nearby streets. Many accounts place its lair or final destination in the surrounding wetlands, with the haunted horse leading its prey out into the Petit Comminges marshes, often towards the Marais near Les Gras du Roi, where they may drown. Or in more haunting takes, it takes off to a distant realm, unreachable by mortal means. Lou Drapé enjoy one thing above all else, the sole reason they stalk the fringes of our realm, and that is to take children. In tales, the opaque horse wanders the streets, and I quote, never fails to grab all the lost children, lifting them onto its back, one by one. It's explicitly said to target vagabond children, and because of that, it's become a symbol of fear, one used to prevent negligence in parents and invoke terror in children, ensuring they stay close to home. Doesn't sound too scary, right? It's a horse after all. So what's that? Like 4 or 5 children a trip? Well, that would be the case for a natural steed, but this one errs on the side of super. To accommodate the vast number of lost children, Lou Drapé is able to lengthen its saddle quarters unnaturally. So much so that it can saddle as many as 100 children at once, with some records insisting the capacity is closer to infinite, though the legs never increase in number. Seems the horse may indeed be more incorporeal than originally thought. And it's not just kids on the streets it takes. At night, as long as the horse passes homes, its hooves produce a melodious sound, one that causes children inside to wake, leave their homes without a word, and hop onto its back, never to be seen again. Earlier I briefly mentioned where the ghost taxi horse takes his kidnappees. Well, there was a little information I left out. According to the French ancient historian Bernard Sargent, the Drapé takes its riders to quicksand or swamps, and this is where it drowns them. In contrast to that, writers like the French novelist Edouard Brassy say the frosted horse bears them away to a mysterious faraway kingdom, an enchanted land beyond mortal reach, where the children who've suffered the cruelty of man can live forever with their new horse friend. Wherever they end up, any child whisked away by this paranormal pony never returns to the homes they were forgotten in. The fear and fascination generated by the steed inspired a little nursery rhyme. The English translation goes as follows. Who will ride Lou Drapé? You or me? The one Lou Drapé will take away will be you. I did say it was a little rhyme. So if you've noticed a misty horse clopping round the borders of your town, or maybe you've heard an enchanting sound similar to the clapping of hooves, then pay attention, for here's how you can prevent this horse from increasing its child collection. Lore says you can break whatever hypnotic spell has hold on the children by screaming the following: Jesus, Mary, Great Saint Joseph. From the stories, it seems that's usually done by one of the children currently riding the creature, but I'd wager anyone able to see the four-legged child snatcher will have just as much luck. And once all the children have jumped from its back, the Lou Drapé is said to disappear. And since prevention is better than any cure, don't neglect your children. And with that, we're finished with our last creature for the week. We've learned that turning over your pillow offers more than just that sweet, cool side. Sometimes cannibals just need a little kindness. And that at least one horse in France is a rather skilled hypnotist. Now that bell means it's last call here at Creature Tavern. So grab yourself one more drink for the road. And until next time, tread carefully out there. You never know when you might wander into the weird.